So now let's talk about price gouging and price gouging laws. So price gouging. All right, so price gouging laws are kind of temporary price ceilings that get put into place usually after an emergency or a natural disaster. So these are temporary price ceilings. Put in place usually after a natural disaster, or emergency. So usually after like a natural disaster or an emergency, with some goods, their demand is going to increase by a lot because people are desperate for things like generator and clean water and things like that after a natural disaster. Or, when COVID hit in the spring in North America, we had this huge increase in demand for things like hand sanitizer and stuff like that. And so these would be laws that get put into place that stop the price from rising above some amount given this kind of increase in demand after this natural disaster emergency. So that's what we're thinking about. So let's draw a graph and think about what's going to happen or what the scenario is. Oops. All right. So here's the price and the quantity, and let's look at the market for, let's say, toilet paper or hand sanitizer, given kind of what we've experienced lately with COVID. So let's just call TP for toilet paper. All right, so here's our supply of toilet paper. Here's our demand for toilet paper, and here was the market price. Let's imagine it was a competitive market for, better erase this and move this label down. Maybe I'll put it up here. So this is our TP market. This is our Q star. I just don't want to go too low or I'll go off the screen here. And this was the price, the equilibrium price, in January of this year in North America or something in Kingston, Ontario. All right. And so all of a sudden, we have this, for whatever reason, this increase in demand. We had COVID come along and everyone was worried about this lockdown and not having enough toilet paper. Could say the same thing with hand sanitizer or something like that. And we have this big increase in demand. So I'm just going to put the demand curve, and this is, the after COVID demand curve for toilet paper. And so if kind of the market is left alone, we know that we get this increase in price and this increase in quantity. So that's what would happen if we left the market alone. But what happens if the government comes along? So in Ontario, like the Ford government comes along and says this is the maximum that you can charge for toilet paper, just because COVID hit. Otherwise, we wouldn't be involved in this market, but COVID hit, and we don't want people to be charging, lots and lots of money for toilet paper or hand sanitizer. So this is the price gouging law. So what would happen naturally is this P star would go up to this blue P. Maybe I should say P star star or something like that, and Q star star. But what's happening is the government is stopping it by putting this price ceiling in place. And at this price ceiling, we see that this is the quantity supplied and this is the quantity demanded. So this is just like a binding price ceiling where this is the shortage for the good. So we normally would go out to this blue Q star star, but this government intervention is causing us to go just to this green, and I just had 3 stars on it, but this green Q at this price. So this price gouging law stops people from charging a lot more when this disaster hits, but we're also seeing that it's creating this shortage that naturally, As the demand shifted out, producers would react by increasing their prices. Would react by producing more as we move along the supply curve, having upward pressure on prices. But that's not what's happening here because the government's stopping that from happening. So you have this shortage, and so if government put in these price gouging laws, that's why I would see like a shortage of toilet paper and hand sanitizer and things like that in the market. Though it's also stopping prices from going up. So that's how price gouging laws are going to work, and that's how they're going to influence the market. So really similar to price ceilings, it's just more a temporary law when there's some increase in demand after an emergency or something like that.